Modern science and art can both be seen as activities in which the world around us is distilled into elements and qualities. These components are then shaped into innovative new forms. In science, we know this activity has both positive and negative consequences. The question is whether the same is true for art. Is the creation of new forms and landscapes always positive? Is it ever negative? One criticism of the modern preoccupation with new forms is found in the scholarship on modern architecture and industrial design. Modern designers frequently created beautiful, innovative chairs and other products. However, these pieces were often impractical, emphasizing form over usability. This kind of design is often seen negatively because people seem to exist for the design, not the other way around. Another criticism of modern art lies in its preoccupation with subjectivity and artistic genius. When art becomes too subjective, too self-absorbed and too self-referential, it becomes opaque and uncommunicative. One example might be the film Nothing But Trouble. Writer, director and star Dan Aykroyd said that this film was a reflection of his imagination. But a movie is not a form of therapy, nor is the subjective imagination necessarily interesting. The movie is simply a series of disconnected, bizarre events. It is difficult to become engaged in the film or to tease out any broader meanings. People sometimes say that programs like Photoshop and Illustrator allow for infinite possibilities. But computers do not enable artists to create absolutely anything. They have many limitations. Computers are not good at simulating human gesture. At first glance, Photoshop's brushes look realistic because they start with scanned images of brush strokes. But in practice, the repeated areas of the stroke often become visible. Brush strokes can also be simulated using synthesis techniques. But the strokes attenuate the richness of human gesture. Stroke synthesis tends to make everyone's gestures look the same. Students often say that they like using computers because they make it easier to experiment. Computers take the risk out of art because they enable people to undo mistakes. Note, however, that much art of the 20th century was based on the idea of risk-taking. In Willem de Kooning's Queen of Hearts, for example, we can see the exploration, the missteps and awkwardness by which the painting came into being. There is a sense of risk in which the artist is not certain about the final outcome. The painting is not merely an image, but a record of an artist's encounter with the world. Photoshop, on the other hand, is an encounter with a simulated reality. Its capability of undoing previous actions significantly reduces risk because no change is ever final. The Photoshop artist does not have to live with the consequences of previous actions and then resolve them or turn them into something new. You just delete a layer or choose undo. But in removing the risk from the artistic process, Photoshop images often lose their sense of history and vitality. Computers can be used to make many kinds of art. But it is difficult to create computer art in which risk informs the creative process. One characteristic of technology is that it makes everything readily available. On the web, songs, videos, images, texts are always at hand. If we are making a Photoshop collage, this would seem to make our options infinite. And yet, this constant availability can actually be limiting. Much artwork looks the way it does because of the use of objects that have been found and saved, not objects that are the result of a search. Joseph Cornell assembled his boxes using images and objects he had collected over the years. This gives his work a certain sense of weight and history. Contrast this with the contemporary work of Nick Bantcock. His assemblages look new, like they have been created on demand. The work is beautiful, sumptuous and eye-catching. Cornell's work is artistic in a different way. It has a lived-in quality, like an heirloom or a shrine, pregnant with meaning. Artists seeking this quality in their work often keep notebooks or collections of source materials. Art made from source materials collected over long periods of time looks one way. Art created from on-demand searches looks another.